Warrior Cats, Dovewing Silence by Erin Hunter. Chapter 1. Dovewing stood very still in the center of the camp as silence crashed over the forest. From the corner of her eye, she saw two pale shapes, a badger with a long striped nose and a hairless cat with swollen blind eyes. They nodded to her, then walked out of the hollow. For a moment, Delvin wanted to chase after them, to haul them back and demand to know what happened next. "Midnight, Rock! How can you leave us like this? The dark forest may have been defeated, but we have lost everything." The quiet beneath the trees was broken by a muffled sob. Sandstorm was crouching beside Firestar's unmoving body, which still lay at the foot of the lightning-scorched tree. "We have lost everything," Dovewing whispered out loud. She watched Leafpool press a wad of cobweb onto a bite wound on Cinderheart's flank. Lionblaze stood over them, the tip of his tail twitching anxiously, until Leafpool sent him away to fetch Marigold and Tansy from the medicine cat's den. Millie touched Dovewing's shoulder with her muzzle. "Are you hurt?" she mewed. Dovewing shook her head. In truth, she had no idea what wounds she had suffered in the terrible blood-soaked skirmishes. She felt numb from her nose to her claws, and her ears were still buzzing from the sounds of the battle. "Then come help us," Millie prompted. She steered Dovewing gently over to the edge of the clearing where the bodies of Hollyleaf, Mousefur, and Ferncloud were being arranged. Dustpelt was staring down at Ferncloud, his dark tabby coat matted with blood and patchy where tufts of fur had been ripped out. "You need to see Leafpool," Icecloud prompted him, pausing as she carefully straightened Ferncloud's feather-soft tail. "I'll stay here." "I will never leave Ferncloud's side again," Dustpelt snarled. He slammed his paw onto the ground, his claw tips scoring the soil. "I should have been with her. She should never have been left to fight Broken Star alone. She was nothing but a scrap of prey for him." Icecloud glanced up at him with a glint of anger in her pale blue gaze. "My mother gave her life to protect the nursery. She died the death of a warrior. Don't take that away from her." Spiderleg limped up and rested his tail on his father's shoulder. "I'm sure Leafpool can come see you while you're here," he told Dustpelt. "We should all be with her now. Birchfall has taken Foxleap to the medicine den. Then he and Leafpool would join us." Dovewing felt a stab of grief for her father. Poor Birchfall. Ferncloud was his mother, as well as Icecloud's and Foxleap's. He would feel her loss hard. Dovewing jumped as Whitewing appeared beside her. The white she-cat's pelt was streaked scarlet with blood, and Dovewing opened her mouth to protest that she should be in the medicine cat's den. Her mother quickly shook her head. "It's not mine," she meowed. "Can you help Purdy?" She gestured with her muzzle toward the old tabby Tom, who was struggling to fold Mousefur's paws beneath her. There was an invisible stone lodged in Dovewing's throat that made it impossible to speak, but she went over to Purdy and held Mousefur's leg while he gently curled her feet under her belly as if she was sleeping. The old Tom's eyes were overflowing, and his breath rasped in his chest. Dovewing was distracted by a stir at the entrance to the hollow. Jayfeather and Brambleclaw were standing by the flattened tangle of thorns that had once protected the camp. "I'm leaving now for the moon pool," Brambleclaw announced, his voice ringing beneath the night-black sky. "More than ever, ThunderClan needs a leader." He faltered as he gazed at the flame-colored body in the shadows. More quietly he went on, "And now, it seems I must be that leader." He nodded to Squirrelflight, who was watching him with her green eyes brimming with sorrow. "Squirrelflight, as my deputy, I leave the clan under your charge." Without another word, he turned and bounded over the thorns. Jayfeather followed more slowly, his gray pelt the color of clouds in the moonlight. Squirrelflight climbed the rocks to a high ledge, as if every bone in her body was in pain, and looked down at her clanmates. "Before we do anything else, we must see to our wounds. Check yourself carefully and go to the medicine den if you are hurt." Her voice was dull, as if the battle had bled her ability to feel anything. "The time is past for heroes," she meowed. "The clan needs you to be strong now. So if you have any injuries at all, get them treated." She narrowed her eyes at Dustpout, who had wrenched his gaze away from Ferncloud. "That means you too," Squirrelflight finished. Delvin glanced at her flanks and looked briefly at each paw, but she couldn't see any wounds that needed urgent attention. She started to lick Mouse for his ears to clean them, but Purdy placed his tail tip on her shoulder. "I can take care of her now," he mewed gruffly. Dovewing nodded and took a step back to let the old cat shuffle closer to Mousefer's head. She closed her eyes in pain as Purdy's tongue rasped over his den mate's pelt. What will he do without Mousefur? Beside her, a silver and white she-cat was picking leaf scraps from Hollyleaf's fur. Delvin pressed her flank against her sister. "Are you okay, Ivypool?" The silver and white cat nodded without looking up. "I'm alive, aren't I? Thanks to Hollyleaf." Ivypool traced her muzzle over Hollyleaf's back. "If it hadn't been for her, Hawkfrost would have killed me. Hollyleaf gave her life for mine." Delvin winced at the tremor in Ivypool's voice. "Remember that Hollyleaf is watching you now," she murmured. "She will never forget what she did." From the other side of Hollyleaf's body, Daisy nodded. She was untangling the long black fur with her claws, teasing out the knots as gently as if Hollyleaf could feel every tug. "Hollyleaf died as a true warrior," she agreed. Delvin looked around at the sound of paw steps. Brackenfur was pacing across the clearing, his tail flicking. "Has anyone seen Sorreltail?" he called. Brightheart emerged from the remains of the Elder's den, the white patches on her fur glowing in the half-light. Muffled sounds of her 3 kits came from deep within the crushed branches. "Is it safe to come out now?" "Have those dead cats gone? They were bad. Ow! Do keep treading on me!" Brightheart glanced over her shoulder. The skin on her ravaged face was taut and red from strain. "Wait there," she meowed. "You can come out soon, I promise." She turned back to Brackenfur. "I saw Sorreltail go into the nursery. We should try there first." "Thanks." Brackenfur trotted toward the clump of brambles, miraculously intact thanks to Ferncloud's courage. Dovewing shook her head, trying to clear the buzzing from her ears. Something's wrong, she thought. The hair along her spine rose. I should be able to hear Sorreltail, but I can't. "Are you feeling all right?" Ivypool asked. Dovewing didn't take her eyes from the nursery as she watched Brackenfur slip inside. "I'm fine," she murmured. "No!" Brackenfur's single word dropped like a stone into the hush of the clearing. Delvin was at the entrance to the nursery before she realized her paws were moving. Brackenfur was standing at the edge of Sorreltail's nest, looking down at his mate's unmoving body. The air was thick with the stench of blood, and Delvin felt it sticky and liquid beneath her pads. A tiny dark tabby head with white patches popped up from behind Sorreltail, her blue eyes huge and worried. "We can't wake her," Lillykit squeaked. "We tried and tried, but she's still asleep." Her sister, Seedkit, appeared. Her pale ginger fur was fluffed in all directions, making her look like a hedgehog. "Is she really tired from the fighting, do you think?" "Tired," Brackenfur whispered, without lifting his gaze from Sorreltail's sweet face. The she-cat's eyes were lightly closed, as if she had just dozed off. "Lillykit, Seedkit, come with me," Dovewing urged, her voice coming out as a croak. The kit scrambled over Sorreltail's body. "Sorry, Mama," Lillykit mewed when her paw slipped into Sorreltail's ear. Delphine tried not to flinch when she saw the kit's belly fur was soaked with blood. She glanced sideways at Brackenfur, but he hadn't noticed. His legs had crumpled beneath him, and he was curled around Sorreltail's head, pressing his muzzle against her. "Wake up, my love," he murmured. "Our kids need you. We can't lose you now." Delvin nudged the kits toward the entrance. "I think Papa is sad," Kit chirped. "Shall I stay and make him feel better?" "No. Let's leave him be," Delvin urged. She followed the kits into the clearing. Several cats were waiting outside, eyes wide and anxious. But her let out a gasp when she saw the blood-stained little cats. As she bounded forward, she called over her shoulder, "Cloudtail, tell our kids to stay where they are." Her mate trotted to the remains of the elder's den, while Brightheart pulled Lilykit and Seedkit to her belly with her tail and began licking their soiled fur. Over their heads, she met Dovewing's gaze with a question in her eyes. Dovewing nodded. Brightheart bent over Sorreltail's kits and drew them closer. Squirrelflight patted over. "What's going on?" "Sorreltail is dead," Delvin meowed, each word dragged out with claws sharp as thorns. Cherrypaw visibly swayed on her paws, and Whitewing closed her eyes with a grimace of pain. Squirrelflight looked baffled. But she was fine. She didn't say anything about being hurt." The dark ginger cat looked around at her clanmates. Didn't anyone notice she'd been injured? Sandstorm walked forward, her eyes still wet with grief for Firestar. She rested her tail on Squirrelflight's shoulder. If she was injured that badly, we wouldn't have done anything to help her. Squirrelflight lashed her tail. "We could have tried." There was a wail from inside the nursery. "Sorreltail, don't leave me!" "I'll go to him," Millie offered, slipping into the brambles. "He shouldn't be alone at this time." Graystripe stepped forward. With a shock, Delvin realized he looked old and tired. "The Dark Forest has claimed another victim," the warrior declared. "May Sorreltail watch over us from StarClan." He bowed his head. Squirrelflight paced anxiously around the cats. "I told you all to check yourselves for injuries. Have you done it yet? I won't have any other cats die on me." Delvin felt a stab of guilt as she licked at the scratch on her flank. She should get it treated before it got infected. She headed toward the medicine cat's den. Inside, Spiderleg was helping Leafpool pad the gaping bite wound in Foxleep's belly with crushed leaves. Foxleep lay very still, only the flickering of his eyelids proving that he was alive. Leafpool looked up. "Are you hurt, Dovewing? Can it wait?" Her amber eyes were huge with distress. "Sorreltail died," Dovewing meowed. Leafpool jumped up, almost tripping over Foxleep. "What? She didn't tell me she was hurt." "She didn't tell anyone," Dovewing whispered. "I think she just wanted to be with her kids." The medicine cat's shoulders slumped. "There's nothing I can do for her now. Let me finish treating Foxleep. Then I'll bring some herbs and cobweb outside to treat you and anyone else that I haven't seen yet." Delvin padded back to the clearing. The three bodies of her fallen clanmates were surrounded by little knots of their kin and closest friends. Ivypool was hunched beside Hollyleaf, licking the soft black fur on her shoulder. Bumblestripe was next to his father at Firestar's body. The pale gray Tom caught Delving's eye and twitched his ears as if offering to join her instead, but Delving shook her head. Graystripe needed him more right now. Cloudtail and Berrynose were picking through the remains of the warrior's den, trying to drag out scraps of bedding. As Delvin watched, Squirrelflight went over to them and told them to stop. "We'll get nothing done tonight," she meowed, sounding calmer now, more like a clan deputy. "We should all get some rest before Brambleclaw returns." "He'll be Bramblestar by then," Delvin thought. She found a patch of clean sand close to the tree stump where apprentices loved to practice leaping and settle down. Curling her tail over her front paws, she looked up at the pale stars and tried to spot the new warriors of StarClan that had been born this night. But the stars were nothing more than cold glints of light in a depthless sky, and Delvin felt no comfort from them. Did we really win the battle? Because this doesn't feel like a victory. She pricked her ears, straining to hear how the other clans were coping with their dead and wounded, but all she heard was a soft rushing sound like wind through leaf-heavy trees. The forest loomed around the hollow, dark and thick with shadows full of menace, and Delvin wondered if she would ever feel safe again.